What's up? This is the 1056 Sports Podcast. I'm here with Justin Jacobs and Trent Dixon. And y'all know how there's been a lot of transactions going on in the NFL. They're talking about Antonio Brown and going to the Raiders.
This is something we talked about last week on the podcast. Me and Justin, we discussed this possibility that Oakland could be a landing spot for Antonio Brown. And then a couple days later, it became a reality.
It did become a reality, and it was a very cheap reality.
Except for a few seconds where we thought he was getting traded to the Bills. I know we were all freaking out.
That was a lot of drama.
And then he basically backed out and said, I will not play for the Bills. I'm not going to freeze.
Don't blame him.
Did he say that, or was that even really a thing that was going on?
He definitely backed out of it.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was serious. I just seen it all over social media.
He said, I wasn't going up there to freeze.
He seems really happy to be in Oakland, though. I mean, he made a video the day after he got traded about being excited about being an Oakland Raider.
California.
Video of him going to Derek Carr's house. So, also winning here is Derek Carr.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a receiver to throw it to.
Oakland's winning
the ghost
this
of
trade.
Jordy Nelson.
Oakland is winning this trade, period. I mean, you look at what they sent. They sent a third-round pick and a fifth-round pick, and they got one of the probably a top two receiver in NFL. I mean, you can't beat that. This.
I had somebody tell me that Pittsburgh won that trade.
That's ridiculous.
Trading Antonio Brown?
For a third and a fifth-round pick.
That's awful.
Now, listen, Antonio Brown was, a seventh-round draft pick? And, I mean, it's obviously a hit, but still.
Yeah,
you should get more than third and a fifth. I mean, Amari Cooper went for a first round.
And then, talking about Oakland, they look like they're spending some big money already, and they signed Tyrell Williams to go along with AB to match with AB. So, I mean, they're going to make a lot of defenses upset with their receiving core now. I would say that they definitely have a top 10 receiving core after probably having the worst receiving core last year.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a picture last night, just some stats, and receivers for the Raiders last year compared to Antonio Brown and Tyrell Williams. About 30 to 40 less receptions, I think, but combined the two had about 10 to 11 more touchdowns, I think. I don't remember the exact numbers. And almost the same number of receiving yards. So you added two legit receivers finally for Derek Carr. People were joking, it's like, oh, he's just going to drop it off to Washington, because, he had no one else to throw it to.
Exactly.
Now he's actually got targets.
How do you think this affects AB's fantasy value?
Oh, I still think he's a top fantasy player. I mean, you don't pass on Antonio Brown here.
Definitely not.
Even if you don't think Derek Carr is as good as Ben Roethlisberger, which, I mean...
I would say that he is.
I mean, I think you actually got a guy who's got arm strength now. I think Roethlisberger's kind of going... I mean, not that he's a bad quarterback.
So they're in age.
Yeah.
But I do think Derek Carr, maybe also his value goes up a little bit more, too. I'm not saying he's a great quarterback for fantasy, but... I think Antonio Brown's going to be just fine.
Definitely going to help them both.
I think the energy of the Raiders matches Antonio Brown better, so he'll be
Absolutely.
Emotionally happy. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, just in general, he was ready to get out of there. He obviously did not seem happy last year. So, and I mean, Le'Veon Bell wasn't happy either. And speaking of Le'Veon Bell, he's on the move. He finally has a team. He's signed a contract finally. Took him 2 years, but he actually has a contract he signed. He wasn't just franchise tag. He doesn't have to sit out a year. But he is signed now, Justin.
And he's going to the Jets, which to me, that really, really surprised me. I did not see him going to the Jets.
Definitely not.
Another winner, Sam Darnold.
Oh, yeah. I mean, both teams in New York, I think they're on the uprise when it comes to what they're going to get in young talent. I mean, you look at Sam Darnold, and then now you have Le'Veon to help Sam Darnold, and then you look at the future Giant quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, and what he's going to have in Saquon Barkley. Yeah, so I mean,
I think the Giants are going to be pretty bad for this year, but
I
could see that if you build around Saquon Barkley, maybe get the right pieces, get the right quarterback.
But how do you think this affects Le'Veon's fantasy value? Do you think it hurts him at all?
Well, if you look, notoriously, the Steelers have been a solid one running back team. Whoever's the running back in Pittsburgh has always been a great fantasy.
I mean, his numbers are going to go down because, instead of running the ball 38 times a game, he's going to run it 20.
I don't think he'll get the same amount of touches, but I mean, he's still Le'Veon Bell.
He could still put up the same numbers.
Still Le'Veon Bell.
Skilled.
I mean, that's one of those things. There's some places that just use one guy, and I'm not sure what the Jets are going to do with Le'Veon Bell. We're not exactly sure, but there's one thing I would be pretty certain on is that he's going to be the lead guy. Number one, he's probably going to touch the ball a whole lot.
And staying in New York, I want to give a big shout out to my Cleveland Browns for getting Odell Beckham Jr.
Well, I guess you're not really staying in New York because Odell definitely wasn't.
Oh yeah, he's out. Don't blame him. I would want out too. I'm glad that he's on a decent team now.
First, third, and Jabril Peppers going back to New York.
They did give a lot for him, but I mean this this really completes the Browns' offense, in my opinion.
And if you want to, you're going to have Odell from his age 26 to age 30 season. That's right in the middle of the prime.
Exactly.
You compare him with Jarvis Landry and now Baker Mayfield, also another winner. Theme here is a lot of quarterbacks have won this free agency. A lot of targets going their way.
Now, how do you think? Because Jarvis Landry, when he was in Miami, he was a reception god. I mean, that's the only reason, honestly, why he was so relevant in fantasy. So now that you have Odell and Jarvis Landry and David Njoku, how do you think they're all going to come?
David Njoku's winning in terms of fantasy value. I think
so too.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Odell and Jarvis, you're going to draft before.
Yeah.
But David Njoku might get like 20-something touchdowns in the red zone this year because no one's going to guard him.
The middle of the field is going to have to be wide open.
Yeah, I mean, Njoku definitely benefits a lot, but I think Odell and Jarvis are going to be just fine. You can't really double team both of them. I mean, one of them's probably going to get double teamed at times, but that's going to leave the other guy in single coverage. So, and we've seen Baker Mayfield seem pretty good beyond his years.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of, he's still a young quarterback. He could hit a sophomore slump. A lot of guys do, but
I don't think he will. I'm ready to see the next step he takes because when Hugh Jackson was fired and Freddie Kitchens took over the offense,
he was very excited to see Freddie Kitchens
stay.
He was excited to see Kitchens stay.
I felt like Baker Mayfield grew a lot under Freddie Kitchens.
And if you can't tell, we're big fans of the Browns. I became a Browns fan March 12th, 2019. I've been for life. I bought the Baker Mayfield jersey. It's on the way. But Dog Pound.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They also improved their defense. They had a good defense anyways, but you can argue they've gotten better defensively as well. So
they've definitely put some more talent on that front line.
So this is good for Cleveland. Cleveland has been a sports city that has really just struggled in general, not just the Browns, but just in general. The city of Cleveland's been pretty rough in terms of sports, other than those few years there. Before we got up to the finals.
Before we get off the topic of quarterbacks and who's winning, I want to go back to the Giants. And since all these other quarterbacks are winning, the one that's definitely losing right now is Eli. Yeah,
absolutely. But they did sign Golden Tate, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever why they gave him so much money, why they even signed him.
I would say I think Golden Tate maybe earned that money. I think he deserves that money, but why is New York the one giving him that?
I mean,
I saw something that was like on Twitter just saying like the New York Giants, they traded Odell Beckham Jr. and they were like, we're going to commit to the run game, give it to Saquon Barkley and rebuild for a few years. And then they're like, they completely forgot it. So let's sign a top-notch receiver. Well, maybe not top-notch, but a pretty good receiver.
Let's pay him like he's a top-notch receiver.
Yeah, let's pay a receiver. Now, I don't understand what New York's doing. Of course, I mean, I think they have – this isn't to say they don't have necessarily a bright future if they make the right moves in the draft, but definitely a confusing structure. Like, what are they doing this year?
Do you think Eli's the problem?
I think it really starts on the offensive line.
I do too. I don't think Eli's necessarily awful. I don't think he's the Eli of old, but I don't think Eli's like some people thought he was just. It was all Eli's fault. I mean, if you look at the stats, he wasn't necessarily terrible. Wasn't great, but he wasn't necessarily terrible.
Exactly.
So, but he's getting up there in age. I think you got to. He mentioned Dwayne Haskins. I think the Giants have to take a quarterback in this draft. But of course, I saw a rumor the other day saying they may not take a quarterback in this draft because they're not sure if they're in love with any draft prospects this year.
I don't know how you're not in love with Dwayne Haskins. I would be, as a GM, I'd be jumping.
Well, even if you're not in love with Dwayne Haskins, why not take like a guy in the middle rounds to take a flyer on to sit there for a year or two to at least develop
and see what you can get out of him?
Yeah, I mean why not take one? I understand maybe wait until next year if you're in love with whoever the quarterbacks are next year. If you think you can make another year, but I feel like that's too risky at Eli's age.
If they're not careful, they're going to get stuck in this boat where they didn't draft a quarterback, so they don't have a young guy. So they're going to be like Denver. And Denver right now, they're to the point where they have to trade or find a quarterback off of free agency for their team to be relevant. And I think if the Giants aren't careful, they'll be in that same boat.
Speaking of Denver, you could argue if they basically traded for the same guy they already had, because if you look at Joe Flacco's stats, the guy who's most comparable to over the last two seasons, Case Keenum, who they then traded away to the Redskins. So,
and going back to New York, I think this is a big get for the New York Jets too. Is C.J. Mosley? I mean, they spent money on both sides of the ball. Locking up Le'Veon and then locking up C.J. Mosley, who, in my opinion, is a top 5 middle linebacker in the NFL today.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird to see. I mean, they was going to sign a Barr from Minnesota. They was going to sign him to a large deal, probably about the same amount of money I would guess as Mosley was going to get. And then the night before he was going to sign the deal, Barr got that sick feeling in his stomach. He was making a mistake. He said he couldn't leave his family in Minnesota, couldn't leave what he knew. and he went back to the Vikings. So maybe that's what benefited Mosley going there. So the Jets were definitely prioritizing defense as well.
And I mean, they already had a decent defense. I would say that they had a top 15 defense in the NFL without a doubt. And so adding C.J. Mosley, there's no reason why they shouldn't be within the top 8.
So you think there's going to be a power change in that conference?
No. The Patriots are still going to win that conference.
The Patriots will win that conference.
I'm not picking against the Patriots until Bill Belichick retires.
Yeah.
I will pencil in the Patriots at 1 or 2 in the AFC until then, and then I will pick maybe a new team to join them in the top 2. Occasionally, of course, I don't see Kansas City falling too far away anytime soon either.
No.
But no, I'm penciling in the Patriots first in that division, and then first or second in the AFC until Belichick and Brady are gone. I don't even care what people say. They're getting too old. Until I see it, I will pencil them in.
I mean, I thought we were seeing it at the beginning of this year, but as the year went on,
but you've seen it the last 3 years. Like at the start of the year, it seems like the Patriots dynasty's over. I mean, this year we thought the AFC was going to go through Jacksonville because they happened to beat them like week 2 or 3. Yeah. But as we saw, the Jaguars fell off pretty quick.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Jags, they finally found a future quarterback, maybe, with Nick Foles.
Yeah. Can Nick Foles lead the Jags to the Super Bowl? Quick question before you answer. Who was the last Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback to make the Super Bowl?
Oh, man. I don't know.
What's the year? You could give me the year.
2009.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, you're probably not thinking it because in 2009, it was played in 2010. It was the 2009 season. The Jaguars did not play in the Super Bowl because the Jaguars have never made the Super Bowl. Because the last quarterback from the Jacksonville Jaguars to play in the Super Bowl was the backup quarterback for the Saints, Mark Brunell, and it was 7 years after he left Jacksonville. So
there you go.
There you go. You don't have Nick Foles, a lot of pressure.
Yeah, definitely.
Mark Brunell, this sign,
greatest quarterback in franchise history.
I think with them going after Nick Foles, I think they're trying to get over that hump.
They're definitely in win now mode.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but what Nick Foles are you going to get? Are you going to get 2017 Nick Foles, leading the Eagles to the Super Bowl, winning the MVP in the Super Bowl, beating the Patriots? You can get that guy, or you can get the guy who, after his first stint in Philly, went to the St. Louis Rams, and, well, we know what happened there.
I think that was a result of bad coaching, though.
Yeah, Jeff Fisher.
Shout out to that man, Jeff Fisher.
Good old Jeff
Worst
Fisher.
NFL coach
Jeff Fisher
of all time, behind Hugh Jackson.
Oh, no.
But
shots.
Nick Foles, I think you got to have the right system for Nick Foles, but he definitely loved Philly. So,
and staying on the East Coast, what do you think about Adrian Peterson signing a 2-year deal with the Redskins?
I mean, is the ghost of Adrian Peterson continually finding deals to sign?
I think it's time for him to just give it up. He should have just let it go a long time ago.
I think he's a solid running back still.
Yeah, I mean, he had a decent
He's
year
not the guy
year.
he used to be, but he's solid.
Yeah, I mean, he can do what he can get the job
and
done.
Maybe, it's good for him because you got Darius Geis as well coming back from, I believe he tore his ACL last year, missed his entire rookie season. So maybe you could bring Geis back as well. And you also have, I mean, this may be a stretch, but Peterson also tore his ACL, so maybe you can he can take like a veteran mentorship, there.
I think that's some of the reason why they signed Adrian.
He can take, and I'm not just saying for knee injury, but he can take him under his wing and teach him how to be a running back in the NFL. And coming back from a knee injury, I'm sure that's a lot. AP knows what he's going through.
Oh yeah, I mean, and they can relate to each other when it comes to that.
And then he teaches them how to be a everyday running back in the NFL. So
be a beast.
Yeah.
And staying with the running backs, what do you think about Tevin Coleman going to the 49ers?
I mean, I don't think we don't really know a lot about Tevin Coleman because he's only ever really been in a timeshare with Atlanta. But I mean, it's not bad. It wasn't a bad contract for him. So
I think this is a great move for both parties involved. I'm glad Tevin Coleman got out of Atlanta because Atlanta is about to be the new Cleveland Browns. And then
we can argue that. I think it's the Giants.
No, it's definitely Atlanta. Atlanta's definitely
included in the trade going to the Giants. The Cleveland Browns also traded the title of worst franchise in the NFL. It was officially handed over to the Giants, at least for the next couple of years.
I don't know. Because Atlanta, they're so underwhelming, and then they got rid of everybody on their staff, and it's still not going to help anything. Their defense is still going to be awful. Matt Ryan's still going to be overrated.
I think we're seeing the Falcons go into more of a passing offense. So, I mean,
they should have been this whole time. I mean, they were.
When Kyle Shanahan, who's now with the 49ers.